What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode on EI Entertainment Studios, back at it with another debate episode. Today's debate episode, we're going to be talking about Godzilla 2021 versus Red from the NES Creepypasta. So here's the plan, folks. We're going to go over the backstories of these two giant creatures, we're going to analyze them, and once we're done with that, we're going to put them up against each other in a death battle. So without further ado, let's begin with the backstory of Godzilla. So Godzilla is an ancient alpha predator who was awoken by the nuclear bomb. It basically protects Earth as the ultimate force of nature. Now, for abilities, we're going to do a quick skim. Once we're done with all of the other aspects, we'll come back and do a deep analysis before I move on to Red, so do not worry. Ability skim goes as follows. Atomic Breath, Combat, Agility, Burning Ability. Territorial level is maximum, Aggression is maximum, Biome is Earth, and height is 120 meters tall. Now, let's go back to the abilities. First one we have is the Atomic Breath. Now, the Atomic Breath is the signature move of Godzilla. It's a blue blast, basically made out of radiation and fire, and he uses that to basically destroy anything in his sight, and, depending on the opponent, to damage them, to stun them, and sometimes even fry them up. So definitely, we know his signature move. In Godzilla 2014, if you guys remember, Godzilla did the Kiss of Death. And basically what he did is he got the Muto, it was the female Muto, he opened the mouth and he, basically used the Atomic Breath and inside of the mouth, and he opened up the mouth and he used it in there, the Kiss of Death. I like to call it the Kiss of Death. And so, basically, I believe some other people do it. I don't know if other people call it something else. Kiss of something else, but I think it's called the Kiss of Death. But yeah, that's what happens in Godzilla 2014. That's an example. Every other Godzilla has an atomic breath. The only Godzilla that I would say is maybe a little bit different would be Shin Godzilla, would be an atomic laser. It's still the same process, but I wouldn't say it's the same thing. But anyways, moving on, we have Combat. Now, this Godzilla, specifically this legendary Godzilla, when it comes to combat, he is up there. He is agile, he is quick, he is fast. And, to even put it on that, he was the only Godzilla that we've ever seen to survive a blast from the Oxygen Destroyer. And that is amazing. Incredible. And so, combat and agility go hand in hand because there are two different abilities technically I put on the list, but I'm just talking about them together. So definitely when it comes to combat, specifically, he can kick, he can punch, he can claw, he can bite, he can headbutt, he can body slam. I mean, Godzilla has it all. And the best one is a tail whip, and his tail whip is deadly. We've seen his tail whips against all of his monsters, and I like to go back to Godzilla 2014 because he uses a lot of his abilities there. And it's a great example. Like, for example, against the male Muto in this example, he kills him with the tail whip. He just slams him and boom, he's done. He breaks his neck. So his tail whip is definitely strong. Now, his final ability we're talking about is the burning ability. And now we're going to use another example from a different movie. For example, let's say Godzilla King of the Monsters, right? Godzilla 2019. And the burning ability, essentially, before I go do a deep analysis of this, let me tell you how it happens. This has two catalysts, right? And one of them is Mothra's energy, meaning her complete energy, her whole essence, needs to be absorbed into Godzilla, so she needs to die. And then radiation. When I say radiation, I mean excess radiation, right? Godzilla's already radioactive, but radiation outside of his body needs to be put inside of the body, right? In this case, maybe use of an atomic bomb, as they do in the movie. When those two catalysts are put together, Godzilla becomes very hot in temperature, and he goes into what we call burning mode, or fire mode. And basically, he is just melting down, not like the 1995 Godzilla, where he actually dies. No, that's the original burning Godzilla. That Godzilla, I'm playing as him in the game, that Godzilla dies. The difference between this one is that he doesn't die. He basically, he doesn't overheat and melt. When he overheats, he just explodes, and then he just cools down, and he is fine. There's nothing going on with him. And this is how he kills King Ghidorah. When he does this, he explodes, and with the atomic breath, the color changes to red, and he explodes, and everything around him melts within a specific radius, and everything a little bit further just explodes. And King Ghidorah just melts and basically dissolves, with his only head remaining, and then we know what Godzilla does to that. Basically the end of Ghidorah. So these abilities basically sum up for Legendary Godzilla. Now, let's move on to Red. Now, Red is an interesting one because, now, some of you guys may not know this character, maybe if you're younger, but me, myself, and the older audience who enjoys the creepypastas, specifically from the NES one, this is an old one. I'm not sure how old this goes back, but I could tell you pretty accurately that this is over 10 years old. And it's a pretty old one. And if you can listen to it, and I highly recommend you guys do go and listen to this creepypasta. I've actually sat down and listened to the whole thing. I think it's like 3 or 4 hours. And it is scary. It's actually, it's pretty scary. A lot of jump scares and all that stuff in there, but basically, I'm not going to go too in depth with the storyline of Red, because that would be like a long debate. So we're just gonna focus on Red as in the creature and the abilities and all that stuff. But I would definitely be happy to provide you guys a link in the comment section below to the creepypasta. If it's not in parts, if it's videos in parts that I find, I'll just link it to the first part, and then you guys, will be redirected to the second and third parts. But if it's a full-on video I can find, I'll definitely link in the comment section below, because Red, it brings back a lot of memories from back when I was in high school. So, anyways, even younger than that. Yeah, but I listened to it when I was in high school. Now, Red is a very powerful demonic creature from the NES Godzilla Creepypasta. For abilities, we're going to do a quick skim right now. Same good old process, right? High agility, claws, flight, fire breath, hand flames, extremely hot needles from mouth, and intestine jaw. There are a little bit more abilities, but I just try to focus on the main one that he's basically going to use in a battle. Height. Now the height. Okay, I'm going to give you a disclaimer. The height I made up myself. He doesn't actually have a real height, because it's an NES creepypasta creature. So I just kind of mashed it up with Godzilla. Godzilla's 120 meters. We'll say Red is 112 meters. Territorial is none, aggression is maximum, and his biome is hell. Some might even argue and say NES, but he's from hell, so that's why I just put biome in hell. Now, let's go back to the abilities. High agility. Red is fast. He is a demonic creature, and he is fast and quick, so he has very good agility. Claws. His claws are humongous, and he can rip into his opponent's flesh easily. It's a very deadly move. Depends on the monsters, but it's a very, very deadly move. Flight. Yes, Red can change forms, and he can fly. He can fly into his opponents, he can ram into his opponents, or he can even escape his opponents if he wanted to. Next we have Fire Breath. Now, this one is not the same as an atomic breath. It's not even close. Now, Godzilla, we talked in the first part of the video how Godzilla's an atomic breath. Do not mix these two. The fire breath is a type of fire breath in a sense, because it's kind of like self-explanatory, but it comes from hell. He pulls it out from hell, so it's very hot in temperature. It's very like a supernatural fire, and it just does like crazy burns on their, on the opponents. And he also has hand flames. He can shoot flames, which are obviously extremely hot, from his hands. I mean, you take it from this. Fire from the mouth, fire from the hands. This thing is a walking, breathing hell, basically. Get the gist of how, Red before you've even seen the creepypasta. So it is definitely a creepy creature in a creepypasta. Alright, moving on. Extremely hot needles from the mouth. This is a handful of an ability to write, but yes, he has this ability. I believe he kills Anguirus in the creepypasta with this. So basically, he has these giant needles in his mouth, and they're just like extremely hot, full of fire, and he can shoot them at his opponents from the mouth. And they just go inside, they're hot, they burn the intestines. It's just crazy. And moving on, the final one, which is a creepy one. It's it's nasty. Intestine jaw. So his intestine from his mouth opens up and it comes out of his body with a jaw, and he basically, wraps it around his opponents and he brings them closer to him so he could devour and kill them. Yeah, definitely. It's weird. Alright, folks. This is going to sum up both of these monsters. We went over them. Now, we're going to move on to the final section, which is the death battle. So here's a plan. Close range and far range. Now, the reason why we do it like this is far range, some of their abilities are going to be limited. And so we're trying to see if an opponent has their abilities kind of cut off from them in some level to here and there. Can they still win? Can they still defend? How good are they? It's a great, wonderful way of testing them out. And then obviously the next one, or the final way we could do it, is the close range, face-to-face. Whoever basically is better wins. Alright, so let's do far range first. Now here's the rules. They must be, and I repeat, they must be 700 meters apart. They cannot come closer than 700 meters. Obviously, what does that mean? No physical contact. Now you see why I'm saying some abilities are going to be kind of restricted. So let's start with red. Let's see what abilities red can or cannot use in terms of far range with no physical contact at 700 meters away from Godzilla. Now, high agility. That has nothing to do with, how far he is, so doesn't matter. Claws. Now, claws need physical touch. He needs to claw his opponent, so claws cannot be used. Flight. Sure, he can fly only if it's a defensive ability, meaning he can fly to duck or, evade Godzilla's atomic breath or whatever, but he can't fly to ram into his opponent or pick his opponent up, okay? So we're putting a condition on this one. Fire breath, of course, that's fine. Hand flames, that's fine, yes. Extremely hot needles from mouth, those are meant to go far distances, so those are fine as well. Intestine jaw will not work. Knowing biology, our intestines and our nerves, I wouldn't say I'm like a doctor or anything, but I know our nerves and all that stuff go for like miles and miles. But just for the sake of argument, we'll say it won't go. For red, because he's a weird creature, for the sake of argument, we'll say his intestine jaw will not travel 700 meters. So that's restricted as well. So basically what he can use in this case, in reality, is flight, fire breath, hand flames, extremely hot needles from mouth. That's all he can do, which is definitely pretty good compared to other kaijus in this section, how they do in the far range department. Now, let's go to Godzilla and let's see what he can or cannot use. Atomic breath. Of course, atomic breath is meant to go far distances. That's fine. Combat, no. Needs physical touch. Agility, doesn't matter, right? Doesn't really matter. Burning ability, yes, he can use it. So basically, he can use atomic breath and burning ability. Now, we have this basically, finalized. In a far-range perspective, especially red, being, an intruder and a demonic creature he is, I truly believe that Godzilla is going to be the first one to attack. Because he's defending Earth. He's a force of nature. And he's going to use the atomic breath. And quite frankly, I believe the atomic breath will do damage to red, but I'm going to say not significant damage because of how, just the make of red. He is a very thick-skinned creature. It's very difficult to penetrate the skin of red, and I would actually argue that his skin is probably even more thick than Godzilla. That's how scaly this creature is. He's scaly, he's big, he's super hot in terms of temperature. So the atomic breath will do damage. Eventually it'll break to the skin, but 10 shots of the atomic breath, it's gonna slowly start to piss the creature off, but it's not gonna do crazy damage. And red obviously is gonna respond to that. Red obviously has many things at its disposal, which is fire breath. However, the fire breath, which comes from hell, most people will argue that Godzilla can't be killed with fire. He can't be killed with stuff like that, right? Another atomic breath. He'll just absorb the radiation. And while that is actually true, this is a supernatural flame, I would argue, because it comes from the depths of hell. And Godzilla isn't a supernatural monster. He is a terrestrial being. He's a creature. Flesh and bones. So the fire breath, which is from hell, will do crazy amount of damage. And the damage I'm talking about is not physical, like burning of the body and all that stuff, which it can, but that's not the main point of the ability. It's demonic possession. And I believe because of that, Godzilla will get possessed and his body will do what Red wants him to do. And he will start clawing himself and hitting himself because of the fire breath. That's what I'm understanding from this creature. And with that being said, the hand flames, there's no evidence that they're from hell, but they're definitely like fire, so they could stun Godzilla, but I wouldn't even say they could damage Godzilla. Not even close. But I would say the fire breath would be the winning factor here. And, even if, assuming that Godzilla goes into fire mode, or, burning mode, whatever you want to call it, which could do a lot of damage to Red, I believe because of the fire breath and the possession that's possible to be, happening here, he won't even be able to use the burning ability because he's going to be possessed. He's going to be controlled by Red. And therefore I believe Red is going to win by making Godzilla kill himself by demonically possessing himself. And that's what I'm thinking. That's my conclusion for far range. Now close range is a more interesting ballgame. So before we continue, it's 1-0. Okay, now close range. Face to face. Now let's take this into consideration. Godzilla is 120 meters tall. Red, we've rated him at 112 meters. So, there is a difference. Nothing crazy, but there is a difference, right? Not significant, but there is some, height differences. And so Godzilla is going to be the more physically stronger creature out of the two. More physically stronger one. Face to face, Godzilla, ramming into each other. Godzilla's gonna dominate Red, right? On the physical strength. That's how I see it. However, getting face to face, and once Godzilla does take him down, Godzilla's gonna start like clawing and attacking and biting Red. But remember, Red has extremely long claws, and he can just claw his face out, claw his body, his intestines. They are sharp. But again, it goes back, history repeats itself. I like to say this. The fire breath, I believe, again, no matter where they are, this possession, I believe, will take place. And again, Godzilla will go crazy, will be possessed, and will just do whatever Red wants him to do. And therefore, I believe Red will be the winner of this battle at 2-0. It's a crazy one. I would even if you disagree with me, I would highly suggest that you go and watch the creepypasta. Just type in, I will give you a link, but if you don't feel like going down to the comment section, just type in Red creepypasta Godzilla. I think if you just put Red creepypasta, it'll come up. It is. I'm warning you though, there is some jump scares. It's pretty creepy. It's pretty scary. Okay, nightmares, but it's pretty creepy. But you'll get a sense of why I'm saying this creature is so strong. You have to listen to it. Once you have some time, get some popcorn and check it out. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great and wonderful day.